Everyone. In the interest of time, we'll get started. So I'll give a very quick introduction, and then I'll invite Professor Amresh Chakrabarty, chairman of the department, the chair of the department, to come and talk about, give a brief introduction about the department, and then we'll invite the panelists here. So we have, I'll just give an idea of what this program is about. So we are in the 25th year of CPDM, the MDes program, and MDes program started a year before the department itself started. So it's a 2-year celebration that we have. And as part of the 2-year celebration, we thought it's a good idea to recognize design ambassadors from practice as well as from academia and document all these talks so that we have records of what they have spoken and what they have done in the brief time, of course, that is available to us. And then this recording, of course, will be then edited and kept for eternity. And at the same time, we'll also have an yearbook coming out of this. So we have a panel discussion, and the kind of insights we get from the panel discussion, to the extent verbatim possible, we'll take it and publish it as part of an yearbook. So that will be a catalog of 100 design experts from academia and practice talking about design. And we believe that will be an interesting content for people to access and share, right? So with that, I'll invite Professor Amresh Chakrabarty to come and introduce the department, and then we'll start this proceedings.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's great to be back. I was in Italy for a month, just got back in Politecnico Milano, which also has a very good design school. So welcome to our guests. Some of them have been our students and also teachers. And of course, all the students and my colleagues here, and also the guests from other schools who are attending. I think the value of this celebration is more than this particular gathering, but more in the discussion that happens here, because we hope to capture that and have it available for everyone for a very long period of time. So in that spirit, these celebration events are organized, and my sincere thanks to Professor Vishal and the team for taking care of the logistics of the event. CPDM was established in 1998. MDes was established in 1997. And we are approaching 25 years, and hopefully with some luck, we'll have a much larger building, connected building, hosting these programs. Just quickly, it's one of the top 3 design schools in India. If you look at the rankings, and also if you look at research, then it's probably the best in Asia and also one of the top 10 in the world. What have we done in the last 25 years? We produced 400 plus master students in design, 60 plus research students, 75 plus awards, and also initiated an MTech program in smart manufacturing, which is just about into its 3rd year. Also a large number of patents. In fact, we expect that all our MDes students submit an invention disclosure at the end of their from their master's project. These are just some of the many awards that our students are winning or ex-students are winning. Red Dot, in Time magazine, they had a mention among the top 25 inventions in the world. The winner of the James Dyson Award 2021, Gandhian Young Technology Innovation Award, IISb Award. I think Nitin Gupta is here, so hopefully you will speak about it. Transbionics Elevate Karnataka Award, and a whole bunch of other, now beginning to get awards in manufacturing as well. We have the Platinum Award from CII on the best low-cost innovation, IEEE Award of Excellence, the RAMI, which is one of the top robotics competitions in the world. Again, 3rd and 4th place were picked up by some of our students. And the research students have gone on around, and of course, Dr. Salim is showing up there, not unreasonably. And then we have research students. That was one of the mandates of the research program. We graduated the first PhD in design, Professor Pradeep Yamyavar, graduated in 1999, and then went on to IIT Guwahati and also initiated or was part of the team that initiated their research program. We continued on here and very happy to see so many such students now becoming faculty in other institutions. So what do? We pursue excellence in research education practice, in design and manufacturing, so that we can enhance the capability of producing systemically complex, technologically intensive, and socially impactful solutions by bringing together the functional, the aesthetic, the usable, and the sustainable, so that we can create professionals, nurture leaders, innovate products, and develop knowledge. I'll skip the details, but some of the top things that have happened is the first design observatory in India, where you can observe how design takes place and learn from it. We have 30 plus participating faculty, 11 core faculty, 7 associate faculty. We started the first smart factory platform in India, first PLM conference, first research conference in design as well. And we lead the National Design Innovation Network. We have a technology business incubator in the area of geriatric healthcare and medical devices. We have a smart factory funded by the government of India and also a design innovation center. These two conference series, ICOT 23 is just coming up. 700 plus abstracts have been submitted. We hope to get at least half of them as papers, and hopefully at least a couple of hundred survive after the review process is over, which would be substantial. And what has happened in the last 1 month, and this is something that I really look forward to these days. This is what has happened. Okay, in ASME ISHO, ASME is American Society of Mechanical Engineers, Open Medflow Infusio, which is one of the products that came out of CPDM, won the W2W competition award. So congratulations to Kumal and Dr. Manish. Our ex-student Ami Sampath won the 2022 Summit Women in Voice Summit Award just now. PLM 22 Certificate of Merit came for one of the top papers there, and this is the agenda for today. So I'll just pass it on to Vishal again. Thank you all very much, and I am looking forward to this discussion.
All right, so this is the agenda which was shared as well. So I'll very quickly run through it. We'll start, introduction is already done. We'll start with the talks from the speakers. And so that will be 4 talks and 10 minutes each, and then we'll go for a panel discussion. After that, we'll take a 10 minutes Q&A session with the audience, and then we'll have a 25-minute introduction roughly with the 4th batch. So this is our alumni there, and then a thanking note and closer, and followed by the high tea here. So the panel, of course, people would have seen the posters already. So this is the list of panelists. We'll start with Professor Anijo Matthew, and I think I'll introduce each of the panelists as we go along. So Anijo will join us online. If you can share your slides, Anijo, I'll unshare mine. And while you do that, I'll introduce his profile to everyone. So Anijo Matthew is interim dean and an associate professor at the Institute of Design, Chicago. His research evaluates new models of innovation enabled by technology and media convergence through the lenses of design fiction, design-led innovation, and entrepreneurship. He works with global organizations to adapt and change strategic responses to transforming technologies. Anijo is the founder and board member of Vamonde. I hope I pronounced it correctly. You can correct me later. A Chicago storytelling app operating worldwide and named by Built in Chicago as one of Chicago's startups shaping the future of virtual reality. He holds a PhD in design computing from the Open University, UK, Masters in Design from Harvard's Graduate School of Design, and a BArch from BIT Meshra. He's taught at Harvard's School of Business, Chicago's Booth School of Business, Illinois Tech Stewart School of Business. He served as head of department at the Art and Design at the College of Architecture, Art and Design at the American University of Sharjah in UAE from 2019 to 21. So all yours. Looking forward to your talk.
Hi, Vishal. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Is there a problem, Vishal?
No, no, I'm just waiting whether you put up the slides. So
Yeah,
that's
I
not.
did put up the slide.
No, no, we still
Oh.
see your background. Yeah.
Oh, no, that is the slide. Don't, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that is the slide. Give me 1 second. Let me bring it back. So, good evening, everyone. Like Vishal said, my name is Anijo Matthew, and I am the interim dean at the Institute of Design at IIT Chicago. And for those of you who don't know the Institute of Design, this is an 85-year-old school of design. And we are the birthplace of human-centered design. So late 80s, we have actually, the original ideas of what we call design thinking started at ID in Chicago. And so this is our new building, the $40 million building that we have in Chicago. And today we house over 4 programs, MDes plus MBA, PhD, and so on. And we are very proud to say that it's from the Institute of Design that human-centered design and systems design, some of the basic frameworks for these concepts started here and spread across the world. And so we are now, my mission here as the new interim dean is to spread that mission and take it a little bit forward. Sorry, give me 1 second. So I'm going to start my session by saying, sorry, Vishal, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
So from my end, I'm going to start the story by talking about my little trip to the UAE a few years ago. About 2 years ago, I made this trip. I became the head of department at the American University of Sharjah in the UAE. And it was a conscious trip. I took a 2-year sabbatical and went over just to see what it feels like to be in another part of the world. And while I was there, I started to build a whole new program around design management. And once we built that program, we had an amazing and interesting thing that happened. One of our alums got hired by Palmwood, which is the body of Dubai Future Foundation, which works with all the government organizations in Dubai. And this is a collaboration between IDEO and the Dubai government. And this is the type of question that they are answering. So my student who graduated from the school is now suddenly sitting at the table with ministers and cabinet members asking questions about Emirati well-being. Right. And this is an interesting problem because I don't know if designers are necessarily trained to answer such questions because we are so focused on products and systems products and services that we forget that there are system-based problems that are out there that we also can solve. And the reason why I say this is historically, design is not very old, right? Design is the educational aspect of design is at best like 50, maybe 80, 100 years old, right? So since then, we have always gotten to this comfortable state where we think of design as an individual sport. So the ideal alumni that comes out of our programs looks like this, right? So we want to graduate Philip Starks who go on to become mega designers, superstars in the field. Or if you're in a UX designer, this is who you want to graduate, right? Johnny Ives, who goes on to change Apple and create these interesting products and services that everybody uses. And often these products and services are designed for a single generation of users. Because if you think about Apple, they have built planned obsolescence into their design strategy, which means that every product that they design is going to be consumed by a single generation, at best 2 generations. And one of my favorite people in India, Professor Venkatesh at IIT Bombay, told me this and in one of our conversations and published this. And he said that the design profession is unique because we somehow feel that we are better than everybody else. So we have this idea of hubristic exceptionalism that is coded into our profession and therefore our education. And we always think of design as a gift. So we go into these organizations and then we give the gift of design, and somehow we are going to change the world because we are gifting the value of design. But the problem is, another great person said recently that design is changing. It's no longer an individual sport, it's a team sport. And what this means is that a new normal is setting in that we have to be conscious of. The world is changing around us. And if the design profession and the education does not change, we'll be caught in that landslide and we won't even know what happened to us. So how is the world changing? Well, three things are changing, in my opinion. So this is my perspective of how the world is changing. One, we have a new concept of what trust means. Trust in centralized institutions are degrading, and now we're starting to think of distributed trust. Think of blockchain. Blockchain is a perfect example of how we have taken trust and distributed it across a peer-to-peer network to create currencies or identification and so on. The second thing that's changing is artificial intelligence. The things that we thought human beings would be unique at doing, now computers are doing. There is this new technology that's coming out of Carnegie Mellon and MIT where this product can actually create images by you telling new images by you telling that artificial intelligence what to make. So if you said old woman in a wheelchair, it will actually create a whole new image, right? And predictive analytics is changing prototyping, manufacturing, all of these things. And the last thing that's changing that we are noticing is that companies are now putting planet at least at the same level as profit, if not higher than that. And so these three things, these seismic shifts that are happening around us is going to change the way design practices. So if you think about what we do, and if you start from the very right-hand corner, we have to now think about post-human interactions, right? So things that are not just about human beings, but also about systems and communities and planet and so on. If you move to the top, now you have to start to think about platforms and systems that are changing around us, not just products and services. And finally, the entire concept of production itself will change. What we thought was possible by human beings and only by human beings is going to be taken over by artificial intelligence and robotics, which means that the design profession itself has to change. And that hubris that we had, we have to let go of it. Because if we want to play in this circle, as these circles come together, if we want to play a role in it, we have to release our hubris. We have to agree that we cannot do these things without other people and other things that are possible, right? So you have to work with medical practitioners. You have to work with management people. You have to work with technologists, artificial intelligence people. And so in a sense, this is the future of design and design education. So how does one train for Design Plus? Traditionally, we are taught to think in a multidisciplinary lens. What that means is that you are basically thinking everything, each of us contribute one thing to the solution, and then everything comes together. But as problems become more complex and systemic, we have to move in an axis of collaboration from multidisciplinary to transdisciplinary. And I won't explain all of this, but transdisciplinary collaboration means that you have to think beyond your disciplinary boundaries. You have to come together to understand the problem rather than try to come up with a solution. And this means that designers have to be taught differently. They have to think systemic. They have to understand speculation. They have to understand new types of prototyping mechanisms. And at ID, what we are doing is we are starting to think about the levels at which designers play a role. So you start from the very bottom, which is where design has always played a role. You think about implementers. But now we have to train translators. We have to train people who are out there building new visions and worlds. And finally, we have to build the visionaries. This means that our education has to move from graduating students that will make an impact in the next 10 years to the next 20 to 30 years. That's how we have to think about it. So for those of you who are interested, the Institute of Design has published a book called Lead with Purpose, in which we capture all this, where we talk about how designers have to think about leading with purpose and as leaders, not as people who work under other people. And at the Institute of Design, we are noticing an incredible change in the community of practice itself. So for example, McKinsey has done several reports on this. We have seen that the impact of design-led organizations is about 2 to 3 times more on revenue if you don't have design embedded. And designers are increasingly asked to design the business, not the product. And at the Institute of Design, we've done surveys. We do surveys, annual alumni surveys. And it turns out our students actually graduate from the Institute of Design. So when they come in and when they leave, the change in salary is 2.7x. Compare that to average MBA salaries, it's 1.5x. So we are actually graduate. So if you come in with $50,000 to ID, you end up with a job that is at $133,000 by the end of it. And we are also starting to graduate different types of people, right? So everybody's familiar with Brian Chesky. He's not from Institute of Design, unfortunately. He's from RISD, but he's a CEO. Anne Stenros was the first chief design officer for Helsinki. I mean, these are the kind of roles that designers are starting to take. And our own alum, this is Rodrigo Isasi. He's the first design-trained CEO of a non-design company in Peru. And in my own work, I've started to see a change, that I'm helping companies like Godrej, Far Eastern, Finabler. These are all international multinationals. I'm helping them build their innovation centers. And as I said, I was helping the Sheikh of Dubai understand how design can play a role in government. And finally, just to conclude, I'll show you a few of the projects that we're doing. So these are kind of the things, and you'll notice that there's always a plus here, and that's the reason why I'm saying that you can never do these projects without somebody else, because design can never do these projects, right? So a new model for hybrid communities with Harvard School of Public Health. We worked with the Energy Institute at Illinois Tech. This won a Fast Company Award on how to use microgrids to develop electricity for local communities. We are working with NEC America to think about how AI can play a role in medical education. In the US, this is a big problem. So we are working with Community Trust to build anti-racism design. Again, another Fast Company Award winner. Equitable healthcare with University of Chicago. So the chief medical officer of University of Chicago has established a lab at ID to look at hospital at home. And finally, Feeding America, where we looked at how senior citizens need food delivery, last mile food delivery. And this particular project not only won an award, but got a $50 million investment to make it an actuation. And that started at ID. And just in conclusion, I want to talk about how we think about design at ID. We are not interested in single generation designs or challenges. What we are interested in multi-generational challenges, the kind of problems that will affect our children, their children, and maybe even their children. And so we are still using our methods-based education practice to create such harmonious futures. So that's it from me. Thank you. That's my email address for anybody who's interested in contacting me. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Anijo. That was wonderful. And it sort of reflects some of the discussions we have had over the years here as well. So I think there's good synergy and a lot of overlaps. But of course, and that's kind of natural, I guess, when you start looking at the problem and trying to figure them out. So with that, I think we'll move to the next speaker and we'll come back for a panel discussion once we have heard all the speakers. So I'll invite Professor Salim Ahmed. And I'll introduce him quickly. So Dr. Salim Ahmed is currently a professor and dean of VIT School of Design at VIT Vellore. He's been involved in establishing MDes and MDes programs at VIT. He holds a BE degree from NIT Tiruchirappalli, MDes from IDC, and PhD from IISc Bangalore. So he's really traveled across India, across institutions. And as a student, he had won an international award for designing a telephone from Sony Corporation, Japan. And this was the first international prize for an industrial design student from India. He has won prizes and honors across product design, photography, collage, and you name it. On various research projects, he has visited 21 different countries in Europe, Asia, and America. And he has he's been involved in successful design and development of more than 200 consumer products for international markets over the last 25 years. He's also a published author in academia. So with that, please. I'll just find your slides. Just one moment. This is the one, right? Yeah. I keep going back to. Oh, big. All right. Oh, this is.
Thank you, Vishal, for that introduction. Dear professors, students, friends, and fellow speakers, very good evening to all of you. I'm very pleased to be here. Any visit to IISc brings back those good memories, feeling very nostalgic. I'm glad CPDM is celebrating its 25th year, of which I have spent 14 years in CPDM. I started in the year 2002 teaching the MDes students, and our own Vishal was in the first batch. It was in the year 2002. And later I also registered for PhD, and after completing PhD, I joined VIT Velu, where I'm heading the design school. This is the building of VSign in VIT Velu. The school was started in the year 2018, and 2 years later, this building was inaugurated. Earlier, we were housed in the main building. At the cost of about 65 crores, our management built this building for the design school and the School of Architecture. We have presently 25 faculty members running 5 programs: MDes Industrial Design, MDes Industrial Design, BSc Multimedia and Animation, and BSc Visual Communication. And this year, we are also starting the PhD program. Some of the facilities that we have in VSign, we have various studios and laboratories. Some of the notable ones I'm showing here: the 3D ID studio with the 40 iMacs. We have ID Innovation Lab, where we have Cintiq sketching tools, 40 numbers. This is a typical MDes classroom, studio classroom. And this is the inside of the building. This building was designed by architect Sanjay Mohe, who designed the digital library in IISc and the triangular water tank behind the main library building, and the new hostel for men's, all were designed by the same architect. It is a platinum rated building, and this year they got the platinum rating certificate. Yeah. The first batch of beta students are passing out this year, and 10 days ago we had the degree show. We called it Akkam. Akkam means creation in Tamil, and we want to make this as an annual event. We had the ex-creative director of Philips, Abhimanyu Kulkarni, and Venkat Ramanan, a person who is involved with more than 24 Hollywood movies for the visual effects as director, visual effects director, and Mr. Sriram, the chief of Shankara TV and the person who brought up Vijay TV to its present state. They were all there as the guest of honor, and it was a big event where about 108 graduating students presented their works, one of them being shown to our Chancellor, Dr. Vishwanathan, is seen in this slide. This product done for leprosy patients with, and it's a smart footwear where if the person happens to stand without moving the legs, it would indicate and you'd get some alarm in the wristband, so they can move the position of the feet, which can prevent in the long run the amputation of the leg. It has been done in collaboration with Skefflin Institute of Research in Vellore, and it's a working prototype. More than 20 patents we are now going to file as part of, which are all done as part of the master's and bachelor's projects. It was a one-day exhibition, the first that we had, because the first batch is passing out this year. And it was well received by the fellow students in the campus. And also we invited students from the schools nearby to create awareness on design. Okay, that's about VIT and VIT School of Design. Now, for today's talk, my definition of design is this. Design is a holistic order. Very simple definition, one-line definition. This is how I would like to define. What is a holistic order? Order is something that is a solution. And you can break the whole thing into this. This has been my PhD work. And there are physical, metaphysical aspects to every design. And the physical aspects, you can, that there are elements, form and color, use principles, proportion, rhythm, balance, emphasis, and which are experienced psychologically, and what is resulting is being appropriateness, feeling appropriate. If a design is having both the unity and appropriateness, that I call as the holistic order. Every problem is what the designers always strive to achieve this, the holistic order. And there are gaps in any problem. Starts with gaps being there in various aspects, the physical aspects, emotional aspects, and the spiritual aspects. and the designer addresses them. And when all the physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects are addressed, the result is the holistic order. Definition of design is a topic for good research. If there is an event, and if there is some delay in that, in that event, you can simply ask people to define design, and it will go on and on and on. Even 2 hours, you can keep people occupied by engaging with making everyone defining design. Design is both a noun and verb. And when there is some gap existing, filling that is what is being done by the designer. That is a process of giving a solution. When all the physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects are taken care, one that results in is the holistic order. And this is, this will go on forever. It is not objective. It is subjective. What is a good design today need not be a good design after 10 years. We are constantly evolving. So is the design. The meaning of design keeps changing with the changing of times, with the changing of technology, the change of culture, and the change of taste. We need the change constantly. Change is constant. And the designers need to address this changing scenario constantly. And as we go along, imbalances will be created, and the designer will keep addressing them and filling the gap. And if there is a holistic approach to addressing the issues, then the best order for that moment could be created. Design helps to find all the whys, hows, and whats. When you address all these physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects, all these are answered. I like this image. The problems start with all complexity, but a good design is always a simple design. Results in a very simple order that is fulfilling for all the requirements. Okay. Next, the future of design and future of designers. It is said the design market is about $100 billion by 2030, according to the report on future of design education in India by British Council and India Design Council. They published that in 2016. We all know India is aspiring to become a $10 trillion economy by 2030. And in that, it's about 1%. And we are all going to be part of it. And there is a huge opportunity for everyone. These days, we don't get to see designers unemployed, whether they are in industry or practicing freelancers. They all have good good market. And India's service industry is booming and design is part of it. About 25 years ago, just before CPDM was started, there were only 2 design schools in India, NID and IDC. Now there are more than 100 design schools in India, and it is growing. About 25, 30 years ago, both the design schools were producing about less than 100 designers every year. Now the number is more than 7,000. And the market is hungry for more. So with that happy note, I would like to end my talk, and later I will be part of the panel discussion. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Now we'll invite Mr. Vinay Rao to give his talk. So before that, I introduce him. So Mr. Vinay Rao is an award-winning designer and co-founder at Bank Design. Of course, Bank Design needs no introduction. Bank Design works with the brands and businesses worldwide through multiple business models, incubation and licensing, venture investing, stake in outcome, as well as providing specialized services. Over the past 20+ years, Bank Design has unlocked more than 300 million of market potential through high-end design and engineering, over 400 products and projects with more than 60 brands. He's an alumnus of University of Pune's Mechanical Engineering program and has a master's in design from IIT Delhi. Apart from his position as co-founder at Bank Design, he's also a director at Aquacraft, a sustainable water solutions company, and a co-founder at Varium, the world's first digital water bank. Welcome. So I'll just give me one moment. Yeah, it is. Thank you. Sorry. It's via the internet. It is coming from Teams.
Am I audible? Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, so I don't speak very often in academic settings, so thank you for that. And congratulations to CPDM for 25 years. It's a very, very long haul. Actually, Bank Design is almost 22 years old as well, so I know what it feels like. Yeah, just some notes to self. I think I should have included more graphs in my presentation to have just visuals. I should also had pictures of my office. It's beautiful. I should do that the next time. We have multiple practices. This is a quick snapshot of us through the years. I just really captured, things that we've done. We've done a car. We've done things as small as patentable cables. We've done defense equipment. We've transformed medical device industries. You see Ravichandran Ashwin standing down there. So that's a product that he endorses that we have a business interest in. If you're watching the recent IPL, there's I think about 12 to 13% of the players wearing gear that we designed. And yeah, we're present in about 8 industries, I would say. And we have multiple ways in which we engage with these industries. Our most common one is to license products. So, we really have a stake in outcome. So we create the product. Sometimes you create the brand, go to a manufacturer, go to another brand, and then license it to them. Or we stay back and have some sort of a royalty engagement with them. That's one way we lock our future to the success of what we ourselves have created. We've got partners that we work with around the world. So these are our brand partners. We started as a company in India. Very quickly, we realized that while there is that $100 billion opportunity coming, it is still far away. It is much easier to go work with companies where they came from a very strong design ethic, and those countries were as diverse as Northern Europe to Turkey to Australia and so on. And off late, I'd say since 2014 or so, I would say a lot of the work is very local here in India. So that's some of the brands we work with. And this is, I wasn't so sure what this talk should actually be about. So this deck is only about our product design practice. We do a whole bunch of other stuff as well across, the SDGs. We've got ventures there. We do a fair bit of work in innovation as well. But this is really part of product design practice. So, when we were kids, right, when we went to that school, there was that hubris that appears still there, which is, there is this thing that, design is pure and everything else is being sullied by commerce and so on. And, at some point, that reality hit you in the face, of course. But, one thing that was pretty obvious to us was there's no real design for design's sake. I mean, there is if you're designing for Top Gun or if you're designing for a museum or something like that. But by and large, you're designing for some person to buy your product. And, they're making a fairly rational choice. They think they're making a rational choice. Most of the time, they're not. They're making a very mimetic reaction because someone has bought something similar, so they want something similar. 90% of the case when somebody buys something, but by and large, people have 5 things that they sort of rationalize what they do with. Right? So there's they think that what you're going to give them is save them on time. It's going to save them on attention. It's going to save them on energy, and ideally save them money as well. And if you can't do any of them, just give give a better visible emotional experience at the very least. So everything that we run through bank design sort of gets filtered through these 5. And it's not to say that you always need something that takes less time, less energy, less attention. The classic case of I don't know if you guys remember the earliest Uber apps, right? I mean, the first version was just like any other app. It would have a approximate time for waiting and so on. But sometime in the 3rd or 4th week since they launched, they had this little black car that would, on the app, which you were okay waiting because you would then be. This is like 10 years ago. You'd be looking at the black car and what it's doing on the screen. And you were no longer complaining that it's going to take 8 minutes or 10 minutes, right? So it's not that you always need to do something that's much faster. You need to engage someone so that the time is better spent or emotionally better spent. So we do a lot of work with medical devices, in part because it's a specialized practice. Not too many people want to go do it. It takes a lot of hoops to run through to get something out to market, and it's also can be very technical and very daunting. But we noticed that the best change that we could do is get someone to take care of the health better, and one of the best ways to do that is to be able to bring those high-end technology that would cost a lot of money otherwise into people's houses if they can. So the one on the top you see is a machine that's used for, not really machine, it's a little product that's used for glaucoma testing. There's a big device that's just above that. That's the industry standard. That's a German company. It costs a lot of money in all of India. 1.3 billion population. There are just 500 of those units. So this company came to us, and they were already incubated, funded by one of the largest eye hospital chains, and the idea was to make a low-cost version of that. It's a very typical assumption that it's possible to go bring down the cost of something and then it will spread. But in reality, what we want to do also is change the way people access the service. And what we realized was that they had a good thing going, but the manner in which they were going to engage with patients was something that needed to change. What we did was, I don't know if you've seen those machines. These are the things where you walk into an eye hospital and you go stick your neck into something and then you look for something else, and it's a 15-minute to 30-minute, at best. And there's a doctor talking to you and you answer something. Are you seeing green? Are you seeing red? And so on and so forth. We converted all of that into something that you can do sitting on your couch, wearing what looks like a like a VR headset. It's got a clicker, and you've got an audio, coming to your ear. And it takes less than 15 minutes to do this. Now, that's a 35 lakh rupee machine on top, and this one is like a fraction of the cost. And it has all of those moving prisms and optics and motors and sensors and all the other things that are there in the big machine. It's all in this very small thing. So this company is now a conservative company. They're now in the US, waiting for the FDA approval, but they're all over India now. The one at the bottom is two companies we engage with, both in a in a venture model. The one at the bottom left is something we did about 10 years ago. That's India is the cliches that we're the heart attack capital of the world, and and the other cliche is that everyone could have been saved if they had an ECG taken in time, right? You know if you had something happening or not. And most people don't get the ECGs done. If you were the age of 40, you should do it every 6 months. And people, I think, did it once in like 5 years, right? So the idea here was to change behavior. It should be something that's nifty enough that you can carry in your pocket. And you can, just by disrobing just a little bit in like less than 1 minute, you should be able to take a clinical grade ECG. Now, this became India's highest selling mHealth product when it launched. It got taken off market only because the chip that is being supplied in there, that company was bought by Apple, and Apple didn't support third-party production. Now, in the interim, on the company on the right, we have a business interest in them. So by this time, the industry and we ourselves were moving towards what we were looking at as being continuous monitoring. You may have seen the ads for Ultrahuman where they do the continuous blood glucose monitoring. There's this continuous monitoring of a lot of things that could happen now. And our idea here was a replacement of the Holter, which is you got to strap something on yourself, and there's cables and leads, and you got to shave your chest and things like that. And we wanted all of that to just go out. Something lands up in your email, you follow the app video, stick it on your chest, and you're wear it for 2 weeks, and you get a report all the time. And in all of these cases, the difference between wearing something like this versus wearing something like that is that this is, it's personal entertainment interest, what your heart rate is and what your heart rate variability is, and are you in zone 2 or zone 3 and so on and so forth. That's clinical. The governance of the information is entirely different. And so with the company on the right, we've got, I think, about 200,000 hours of testing done so far. And we should be launching sometime this year. It won't look like that. So there's an old image. It's much niftier, much smaller. If you're watching IPL, actually, if you play cricket in the subcontinent, if you're forced to wear a helmet, anything more than 15 minutes is sheer torture, right? And my son used to go to cricket camp, and he would refuse to wear the helmet, even though camps are so careful these days that they wouldn't allow even like little kids are forced to wear helmets simply because of they're afraid that they don't want the liability of the kid getting hit on the head, right? So what you see at the top left is Adam Gilchrist in Chennai in 2002. And the truth is that helmets for the longest time, they've been mostly hard caps. They've not really been designed for the sport itself, right? And they were designed by people sitting in England, right, where it doesn't really get very warm at all. If anything, it's cold most of the time. So what we did was, we approached this in an entirely different way. We had this on the back burner all the way till about 2013, and then at 2014 with this brand, we have an interest with them as well. We decided that we can go make something that's very different. And bear in mind that this is a sport that's actually very, very conservative. I mean, if you look at a bit like squirrels or animals, right? If you look at an animal from 1,000 years ago and look at an animal from today, they look the same. And if you look at cricketers from 30 years ago and cricketers from today, they actually look the same. There's the exception is today because of IPL. And we said, given that there is this conservative tilt in the sport, we knew what is it that we can do. So we ended up designing, thanks to the help of some players that we worked with very closely. We ended up designing what is the lightest, safest, most comfortable, and in our opinion, also the most stylish cricket helmet that there is. Every one of the players that you see there is not being paid to go wear it. None of them are endorsing it. If I'm not wrong, Dinesh Karthik actually endorses another brand, but he wears Moonwalker. He wears Moonwalker even while keeping. It's not a keeper's helmet, but as far as he's concerned, it's just the most comfortable one. And like I said, we had no intention of breaking into the pro players market, but now I think if you see the Sri Lanka Premier League, Sangakkara does the Multan Sultans and somebody else in the Pakistan Premier League. I think those entire teams wear Moonwalker exclusively. So they get calls saying we want everything in this, in this color or in that color and with the sticker and so on. So since we engage with brands and in some sort of a business engagement, one thing we're very careful and mindful about is avoiding clutter. Because the moment you've got clutter, the amount of communication that you need to do to get over that is like 10x the effort of actually doing a design. Right? So in this case, there was this company that came to us with just one core tech, which is multiple different kinds of UV-based sterilizing. And their idea was to use this only in medical devices and in water to start with. But at the start of the pandemic, things changed. There was this huge demand suddenly for all kinds of products. And of course, very muted, let's say a muted requirement in India, but a massive one in many other parts of the world. So we evolved a brand design language very, very quickly for the brand. We also churned out, I think, 8 products in like less than 7-8 months. I think, and on a production timeline that was insanely short as well. And lastly, maybe this is not the last one, I don't know. So design is not it looks very simple to go design something like a mobile phone. So, Anijo had Johnny Ive's work in one of his slides. One of the things that I get from the youngest designers who come to bank design is, what is there in designing a phone, right? It's a rectangle with 4 rounded corners. What more will you possibly do? And the truth is, we've been doing this for 11 or 12 years now, and it is, in some senses, we are pushing it to be more and more dematerialized to the extent that we can. If you look at what happens with phones, is that your screens just keep getting wider, but the phone remains pretty much the same size. But underneath the surface, this is the battle, right? So if you design it once and you go make this mock-up and the carrier, in this case, signs off on it, you're still 1 year away from production. And even that is like, down in the trenches, it's war trying to get it out in 1 year. There's all kinds of issues that happen from the inside. Everything from, can the electronics fit? Can this be produced? There's like some sort of serious plastic production innovation that happens in every single one of these devices. That the one on the left there is India's only manufactured 5G phone, I think, as of now, completely assembled in India. That has like 8 antennae inside, and my guys are talking with 8 different teams worldwide and saying, the shape of this is going to be like this, and they're saying, no, I can't do that. And I say, no, it has to be like this because the other guys sign off on something like this. And design has become the tunnel vision, not the tunnel vision, but really the synthesizers of multiple tunnel visions from all the other teams that happen there. The one on the right is a product that's doing very well with Verizon right now. We've never been able to crack the consumer market in India, not yet. We had a brand of our own. I'm sure none of you have heard of it. It's called Ari. We launched it in 2012. We had all of 8,000 sales, very humbling. But we realized that this market is something that requires huge amounts of promotion in India, and if you don't have that, it's just a losing battle. Sometimes the best design is also very little design or no design at all, right? So this is a company that came to us to do any sort of ball throwing machine, really, and we took it up as they had some idea. They were ex-students from a US engineering college, and there's some background of having worked on the baseball throwing machine in the US, and when they came to us with something of a crude prototype, and we looked at it and said, look, it's motorized, and if you had to play ball together, pun unintended, the idea was that it had to be very low cost to sell in India. And when you say low cost, we're talking about sub 20,000 rupees. And the closest price, I think, of a motorized ball throwing machine was like in the order of 2 lakh rupees or so. And so which means, you're throwing everything out of the window, right? And if you look at, coaching camps and so on, we don't have power in the middle of the field to go power a motorized ball thrower. And you have, when we did the research with these camps, for one batsman, you have 40 bowlers lined up. Right? So there's this massive imbalance in these camps. And we, of course, wanted to, tackle the retail market as well, where cost becomes an even bigger concern. So we looked at, can we make this entire thing completely mechanical, right? And so about 4 or 5 prototypes later, we had something that looks exactly like that, which is things that are bought from city market, put together, and only some specialist parts like the springs and stuff made for you. We had a very fundamental problem with this because you're trying to throw something at 120 kilometers per hour. It's a lot of force that's required to throw something at 120 kilometers per hour. And this thing that he's sitting on actually goes with the spring. I mean, it really takes off and then it rolls out along with it. It's almost like it's very unstable. And the only way to stop that from happening was that the person who is bowling figuratively standing on it. Now, in any other part of the world, the question would be saying, is this even done? I mean, and we weren't so sure ourselves either. And then we started showing it to camps and they loved it because, it solved one of the biggest problems. And did we do any design to it afterwards? Actually, no. So the picture you see from the right, there was a down in the outskirts of Bangalore. There used to be a gym equipment manufacturer, and he started producing this for these guys, and it became such a big thing that he stopped producing his own products and he started producing just this. And Ravichandran Ashwin, took investment in the company, knowing that these guys were going to become really big, and became the brand ambassador. So this is one thing I think sort of reinforces what both the speakers have said so far. Design is not just something that you do in isolation. There's so many things that we think about, or we have been forced to think about. It's always the thing where week 1 on the project, you're just going gung-ho and you're like, oh, I can finish the whole thing in 2 weeks, right? And then it still takes 2 years. It still takes 2 years because there's so many other things that keep coming one by one. There's like a stack of something always, fitting the brand language. Can this be produced? What are the costs of this thing? Who's going to use it? Is it going to get serviced? Is it sustainable? How is it going to get disposed? So yeah, I think design to us is synthesizing all of these things and trying to still make it look very poetic in the end. Yeah, that's all I have. That's my 11 minutes. So we're hiring for all kinds of positions. Feel free to write. We always have openings. We're always looking for talent. That's the email address. Do reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always good to hear from people who are on the other side of design, right? Who are actually doing it, right? When you are a user, it's very easy to see weaknesses in design and criticize it, right? In a moment and in a second. All right. So with that, I'll come to our last set of speakers. So this is a slight deviation from what we have been doing so far. So we normally have 4 panelists. This time we have 5 panelists, but 2 are combined into 1. And they are special in many ways. They are our own students and who have been very successful as entrepreneurs. Right. Yes. Or in the IISc Lingua from Rocket Boys, we have Agri Boys. So we have the Agri Boys from CPDM. So I asked them for their bios and they have given me a combined bio as well. So I'll just read it out very quickly. So Vinay and Nitin are graduates from CPDM from 2012-2013 batch, and they are co-founders at Sickle Innovations Private Limited, which designs and manufactures horticulture mechanization tools. They have collectively launched over a dozen innovations which have reached more than 1 lakh farmers. They have, of course, been very humble in not stating that they have won a number of awards, and they have been winning a number of awards over these years. I'll invite Vinay and Nitin to please put on their slides or, okay, so I need to do something here, so just give me a moment. All right, if you have slides to share, please put it up.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. We have slides.
Yeah, all good. We can see it now. So you can,
Yeah, okay.
you can
Thank
maximize
you so
it.
much. And I'm sorry, because of some reasons, Vinay is not able to join. He joined and then he had to drop. Anyways, I'll go ahead and we will see if he joins in between. And thank you so much for inviting us. And I've been, following earlier talks as well. It's very refreshing and very entertaining to, learn about design from the people who have actually gone out from CPDM and to see them in different roles, and also to see our old professors, everybody there, our colleagues. I'll be talking more about Sickle Innovations, which is our startup, and I think when I read the email which was about what is going to be the agenda of the talk. So for us, design. We are too young to give you any. I would say a philosophy on what is the design, the meaning of design. For us, design is solving problems, and that is what we have been doing. And rather than going with an individual story, and that is why we felt we will share our company's story, our startup story, which is pretty much our design life. After coming to CPDM, only our design life started. Even though earlier we were doing something, but it was not I would say more organized way of designing. So at Sickle, we design and manufacture need-based products, and this is how we define design in agriculture domain. Agriculture is a very fascinating area for us, and that is the reason we are working in this area. Also very difficult because talking about design in this field is a little difficult because people do not really understand. We are talking about a field which is very old, which is using very primitive technologies, and the whole information, the whole I would say the sense about design is very different. In fact, the name of our startup was Sickle Studio earlier, and we had to change it to Sickle Innovations because people were thinking, is it a photo studio? We wanted to be more of a design studio for agricultural products, but later on we realized we were leaving a lot of value on the table, and we were not able to actually sell our designs. And this is the reason we moved into full-fledged manufacturing as well as with the sales channels. We sell our products under two brands, Hectare and Marsh Harrier. And as we are going forward, I'll be talking more about how we what we did, how we started up, and how was the progress, and that will be a full story of our design career. If I talk about farm mechanization, it is I would not say only the mechanization. The farming itself is one of the oldest profession on earth. We are talking about tools or the designs which have been used from very old time. You see this, for example, this plow which is there. So there are, even today there are like more than 1 crore plows are still being used in India, which are manually driven by bullocks. And we are talking about this design which is there from very old time. Krishna's elder brother, as per the Indian mythology, the Hindu mythology, Krishna's elder brother Balram used to have it, and it happened about 8 lakh year old. So we still have this very similar product or a design. Maybe it is a classic design. This is what the definition of the classic design is. But still, if you look at this picture, you can see the way the block is kept on the bullocks. It makes us feel very painful to see that how it is being kept directly. There is no cushion. It can be much more ergonomic and much more efficient. And this was the reason why we picked up this agriculture, and we thought that there are a lot of things which we can do in this field. You will see the contrast. The biggest contrast which we see in the fields is the farmers might be carrying, sometimes iPhones, everything, and but when it comes to the equipment, so they are still relying. A very large number of our farmers are still relying on manual labor, manual jobs, all primitive tools. To give you a little bit sense of what I'm talking about, it is said that India has achieved about 40% farm mechanization, but if you divide it into different groups as per the farming operations, you'll see maximum comes from the tractor, and the tractor which is used in seed bed preparation or the land preparation. So these are all the table. If you see, the first column is all the major crops. On the right side, you see 4 steps. One is the seed bed preparation, sowing, weed and pest control, and then comes the harvesting. And you can see that wherever there is a need of precision or precision equipment, so that is where the lack is. Wherever the power requirement is there, I think we have done well. And our focus has been majorly on harvesting the right bottom part, vegetable crops and horticulture crops, where we have been finding out problems and developing solutions around it and selling them and commercializing them in different markets. In the harvesting, you can see that the cotton also is zero. There is no actually mechanization which has happened so far, and that is what my MDes project was with Professor Divakar Sen, and with which we started this startup. Unfortunately, we could not commercialize this product, but slowly we kept on building another products for the similar set of farmers. For example, the people who were growing cotton, they were also growing mangoes. So we found out that harvesting mangoes was also something which was not done right way. So we fixed that. I'll be explaining that in further slides. So I've already communicated this. 2014, the company was incorporated, and 2016 we started commercializing products. I'm sure I don't need to talk about design thinking here, but this is one slide which we generally keep for our general audience, where anything which we pick up, we sure that all these. So Vishal, I think a lot of echo in the background. Is it something?
Yeah, we are looking at our end. I'm told that it's probably from your end, so I'm not sure which end it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'll go ahead. So these basically desirability, feasibility, and viability. And I'll talk from agriculture perspective. Desirability is, of course, the most important thing for us, because we make need-based products. We go to the field, and I also want to talk about Professor Anjo Matthew's point about the collaborative design approach, and that is what has been very successful for us, at least in the very beginning phase, where me and Vinay, as a designer, we were working together, and I took up a job of going to field, finding out what is required. I would give back the information to Vinay, who will, with his team, come out with a solution. I will also have a lot of inputs for the sale point of view, also from our past experiences, that at what price it can sell. So for the pricing, the viability point of view, what we do is we make sure that any product which we are making, it has the break-even point in the first season itself. Let's say if a farmer is buying an apple harvesting device, so he should be able to break even in the first season itself. So his value should come out. And feasibility is, of course, technology, whatever is in our approach, what we can do as per our strength. So with these 3 parameters only, we take up a problem and we work on it. Now I'll go a little deeper into what kind of products we do. One is the hand tools. Then we have some grading and sorting equipment, and then we also do as a part of, you can say it's a service part, but I'll discuss about the business model in this. In hand tools, basically what we do is we try to give skills to the casual laborers. Farming is a very skilled job. Anything which is being done in farming is a skilled job. So what we have felt is over the period, the skill is what is not being transmitted with the generations. And for example, if a person was, I remember it myself, some 20 years back, the people who were coming to harvest cotton, they were so efficient, they could do like 100 kgs in a day also. But now, see, or the skill has gone down that, the average picking by manual labor is about 40 to 50 kg in a day. So imagine if you can give them a machine or a tool or a product with using which they can still do those 100 kgs. So that is where we work in. We develop all the solutions, keeping that in mind, that the skill which has which is required, so that should be embedded in our product itself. And with this, casual labor can also earn more because they can do the skill job, and also farmers who are employing them, so they can also get better in farm income. So the farm income can only be increased by 2 ways, at least from our perspective, is either by reducing the input cost or by increasing the value of the crop. So most of our products do this. Left side image which you see is our mango harvesting tool, which is and the extreme left you will see those mangoes are harvested, they come with a stalk, whereas the right side traditional tool which you see, it harvests mangoes by pulling. So once the mangoes are pulled, so it leaves a sap. Any mango you will see in the market, you will see that it starts getting rotten from the top because the sap burns the skin, and that is the point where it creates a wound. If the scientific way of harvesting mangoes is actually by shearing them, and you should have at least 1 inch of a stalk so the sap does not ooze out. So this is what our product does. It has been one of the very successful products. Very simple. You see the engineering wise, it is nothing great. In the bottom you have a lever, top there is a blade which shears the stalk, and in fact we have an improved version of it which just by the pulling itself there is a cutting mechanism which brings the mangoes down with the stalk. So like this, we have a lot of small innovations, more than a dozen products we have commercialized. We have sold more than 1 lakh products. I know for the large companies, it might not be a very big number. And of course, for the country like India, where we have about some 250 million farmers, it's a very small number. But we are, yes, coming up with a lot of such innovations, and we are building this brand. Now, another big problematic area which we found was after the fruits or vegetables are harvested from the field, farmers were finding it very difficult to sell them in the market, and probably they were whatever sales of horticulture crop is. When I say horticulture, it is basically fruits and vegetables. So any producer who produces fruits and vegetables, they want to sell their produce immediately. Because they do not want, it is a perishable item, they need to sell it immediately, so they will sell it even without grading sorting, and whoever does grading sorting makes money. So we go to Rediwala, and there also we pick the best one, right? So we are doing grading sorting, so we are actually getting that benefit. So if the grading sorting can be taken to the farms, so there the farming the farmers get that value, and that is what we have done. we have developed various grading sorting equipment for governments, for FPOs, farmer producer organization, basically a group of farmers, and for the large corporates as well. I'll be just showcasing some of those. And we have worked with a lot of different corporates for solving few problems which they have in the harvesting domain, which I said, like, harvesting has become over the period our forte. And in the team wise, yes, me and Vinay, we look up. I mean, I look after sales, and Vinay look after the product development and manufacturing, and then we have another partner who joined us later on. For our innovations, we have won a lot of awards, and I think most of these awards you will see they are like more about innovations, most innovative company, and I think it does happen only because of the training which we received at CPDM, which changed our thought process. We were given with lot of advices not to enter in this sector. Because you'll see Mahindra and any large corporate, they are into large equipment only. For the small hand tools, it is completely unorganized sector. So we were warned that people will start copying you. There'll be a lot of other problems, but I think the more the problems were there, we found better opportunities, and the answer to all these problems was innovation. So we kept on innovating, we kept on building new products, we had new products, and also we had incremental innovations in our running products. So few people in fact have started copying our products, which we actually take pride of, that our products are so good that people are now copying it. And but we keep on adding new incremental innovations that dealers, our existing customers, so they always reach out to us thinking that they'll get something new from us. Thank you. This is my email address. Before I stop, I would like to show you two small videos of our products. I think which will give you a little bit of idea of what kind of products we are talking about. You see, this is a mango harvesting device. We have an improved version of it, very low cost one, which has been top seller on Amazon for a very long time. We give competition to a lot of German companies in weeding devices. This video is also a little old. This is an apple harvesting device which does the biomimicry. It exactly mimics the motion of hand. There is no blade. It just twists the apple upside down the same way a person harvests the apple. There is no blade in this. Now we also have few products like where we can just change the head, and it can be used for multiple fruits, because different fruits need different kind of harvesting process. This was an improved version of cotton one, which we actually which was my thesis work. We could not commercialize this product because of few reasons. Then we moved into more of horticulture based products. This is one product we have developed recently, which is cut and paste. So it cuts and also does the pasting of insecticide, so that every time you do the pruning, so you don't have to do the insecticide later on. This is one comb vibrator we have done for apricot in Kargil. Apricots are being harvested. This we did it for Chambal fertilizers for neem fruit harvesting. For harvesting of neem fruit, they wanted to use that neem for neem coated urea. This was a very low cost apple grader we had done in the beginning. Now we do much large installations for the grading sorting equipment. Then we also did a very successful product, which is saffron dryer. It is world's first weight-based dryer. It's a smart dryer. Saffron. We developed it for Kashmir. 500 such dryer we have given, where a saffron is put into this. There is just one button. We press it, and the whole saffron is suspended on load sensors, and based on the initial and the last minute, we know when to shut it down. And just one last video of one of our installation of a very large product. We never thought that we could do something of this scale, but yes, the problem was so interesting that we wanted to do it, and we have done. This is the complete machine we have manufactured. This does grading, sorting, waxing of fruit based on its images, which we rotate it in 360 degree, and we find out the different physical characteristics, and based on that we grade them. So we did it for one group of farmers, and they have done huge amount of business with this. They have earned a lot of money because of this. It has been very successful farmer group also. So it does washing, drying, waxing, everything by itself. Just in the beginning, you have 1 or 2 laborers. Everything else is automated. So this is what I'll skip to. This is 360-degree rotation of each fruit. We take images from all the sides based on their characteristics. We put them in different grades. This machine can do about 6 tons of fruit in 1 hour, and it does. When they run it for 20 hours in a day. And this is how the fruit comes, and this is how it goes out. And yeah. With this, I'll stop here, and yeah, I'll look forward to the questions and discussion.
Thank you, Nitin. It would have been great to have Vinay as well, but hopefully we'll have both of you. Oh yeah, so thank you, Nitin. It would have been good to have Vinay as well, but hopefully we'll invite you to visit him once again, and you should. I think we have 10 minutes for question and answers. But before that, I just thought I'll make a comment on the variety of talks that we have heard. And that's the thing we expect from this kind of an event, right? Where we bring in people from different areas of expertise. And if you look at it, they talk about you get so much into your customers that most of the time what Nitin was talking about is about farmers, right? And that's exactly what a program like this should be, right? You understand the process, and then you dive into the problem, and then it's all about the problem. The solution sort of gets somewhere inside it, right? It's not, you're not talking about the solution anymore. You're talking about the problem, and of course the solution addresses that. Right. So with that, I think we'll take some questions. So somebody needs to take the mic, and yeah, please raise your hands, and we'll take the questions accordingly. So please introduce yourself, and then point if you have any specific question.
Hello everyone, I'm Shubham Shresth. I'm in the first year of MDes course at CPDM. So sir, I wanted to ask a question that was related to, like you were dealing with, am I audible to you, sir?
This is to Nitin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nitin, this is to you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear.
So you took a problem that was very basic, and you had to deal with a pre-notion of the farmers that how they actually did the work beforehand. I mean, there's a huge history of farming inside India. So introducing machines to do something which is they're more comfortable with hand, and they have their, there is a learning cost involved in that. So how I want to know that what was your approach to, make them accustomed to the thing, although we know that it might be beneficial in future, but to negate that learning cost. So what was your approach towards that?
Yeah, that's a business secret, but I'll share it with you. What we do is one of the slides was about the behavior change. The behavior change is something very difficult. So in our case, the farmers are our clients, but the end users are laborers. So farmer would want to buy an apple harvesting device so that he does not want his trees to get damaged. But a laborer who is more used to, climbing up and, using all different kind of primitive tools, so they just want to do that. So there is always a fight between these two characters that, whether they to adopt this new technologies and all or not. So what we do is we reach out to progressive farmers who experiment with the technologies. We convincing them is little easier, the first adopters, and then we use them as our brand ambassador in that market. So it becomes easier, because in the farming, you are right that people are having that notion that they have been using from very long time. But good thing is that if one starts following, others will follow very fast. The adoption, if it is useful, people will adopt very fast. One example I can give you, and I'll stop with that, is BT cotton. When BT cotton came to India, prior to that, we had normal cotton. There were a lot of cases. Monsanto came into this, bad light, but it was giving resistance to certain diseases, and farmers were so happy. Within 5 years, we had some 90% of coverage with the BT cotton. So that is something which, something good about agriculture. If they find something good, if they know that, it is giving them some returns, ROIs are there, they will adopt it, and they will adopt very fast.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So Vinay, so at least it will be good to have you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm sorry I joined with late due to some technical. Happy, thank you for inviting me. Happy to see Professor Salim sir, and also a lot of other professors around. Right, so Nitin would have already shared our story, and so I'm from 2012 passed out. So me and Nitin, along with, we joined hands so that both of us cared for this agriculture sector, basically to sort of empower both laborers as well as farmers to provide technology which is like very affordable, and like Nitin just mentioned, right? So having that ROI is really important and critical for any product that we are doing here. Yeah, I mean, like, that's all.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Vinay. So we'll take the next question, Dr. Manish Arora.
Sure. Thank you. Very interesting talks for all of you. Thank you. I could listen. My question is to Mr. Vinay from Bank. You work in a lot of medical devices space, and during the talk you were mentioning you have interest in this and interest in that. I presume this is business interest. And how do you kind of balance between being only a design firm versus when do you take interest? How do you make that decision? If you could share some thoughts on that.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can. Yeah. So this is a good question. Yeah, so it starts really with whether we built IP in advance in this area or not. If we already have something, then we're on the one side of the negotiating table. At which point we can say, you know what, if you guys didn't come in to us with this, we likely would have done this with somebody else, and and hence we want to have some sort of a business interest in this. Now, on the other hand, if it is in a new area where we've never done something before, we're unlikely to have somebody else to go to this with, then we'd be very happy to do this in a pure services model. Also, if it is a very risky business, it's easy to stand here and say that we take a business interest and so on. Many of them don't work. So I mean they work as a product, but there's a lot of things that happen in marketing and so on where some things don't quite work out from a business standpoint. So we got to weigh those pros and cons. But yeah, our first index is to look at whether we can make a business out of it. It also locks all of us into ensuring that what we're doing is faster and is as successful as it can be. because there's always the risk that if you're doing a pure services business, then you're just selling your time. We don't want to do too much of that.
All right, there's a question there. Yeah, please raise your hand up. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. So this is like an open question. This is to do mostly with the process of design collaboration, actually. So I just wanted to know, I mean, from all the amazing talks that I've heard till now, simple design is the best design, but the process of designing is nothing simple. So I think the complicated part is during collaboration from what I've experienced till now. So if you all can tell me your insights or the key factors to keep in mind during the collaborative process, during the stages, like maybe in like a few simple like keywords or some kind of process, that would be really helpful.
All right, Anuja, was the question clear to you?
Yeah, it was clear to me.
Okay, so maybe you can have a first go and then we'll go around the everyone. Yeah, that's a good start for the panel discussion anyways.
Yeah. So I'm going to start by saying that I'm not 100% sure that simple design is the best design. I feel that that is a thing that has been perpetuated as part of the it is not to say that everything that was said here is wrong. It's just to say that the complexity of the problems that we have today demands a certain level of complexity from design also. So for example, if you're designing for a particular system-based approach, let's say healthcare, you really have to think about what problems you're solving and how those multi-systems they're basically systems within systems, they're called multi-systems, how those systems impact each other. So when you solve for a problem within a multi-system scenario, you might be actually doing what we call problem displacement. Problem displacement is you're solving for one problem, but what you have done is you have changed the problem from one system to another system. So it looks like you have solved the problem, but the problem arises again in another system. Another one that we talk about is problem replacement. Problem replacement is when you go into a system-based approach, let's say education in India, designing a tablet for students to use in India is very different from designing education in India. So when you think about problems like that, then what happens is you might be actually creating new problems, like we do it all the time at the Institute of Design. We come up with a solution and we implement it in the system, and we realize that what we have done is we have solved that problem, but we have replaced it with another new problem. So problem displacement and problem replacement is something that we have to be really conscious about. And in order for us to do this, and this is why I said simplicity may not be the right approach, is to understand complexity theory and to play with and work with the people, the engineers and the mathematicians and the policy and the economist people, the folks who have expertise in complexity theory before we approach the problem. Right? And this is what I would recommend from my end, is that we approach problems from a complexity perspective than a simplicity perspective.
Right, and if you could add comments on the second part of the question, which is about keywords related to collaborative design that you sort of connect typically.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you have to think about when you think about collaborative design, and many people here will be familiar with the API model, the application programmable interface. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is when you connect to a software, let's say you want to use Google Maps on your website, Google Maps has an API call that you have in which you can say, here's the data that I'm sending you, and here's the data that you need to send me in order for me to represent this on the website. Right? Now, when any collaboration, you have to think of the collaboration in a similar manner. What is the value that you're going to exchange with the collaborator? What value does the collaborator exchange with you? And what is the output of that collaboration in the physical world and within your own relationship? Because if these 4 or 5 things are not answered, what happens is either you feel that you have not done your job, or the collaborator, the partner that you're working with, will feel that what is this design thing? Is this it's all about aesthetics, right? Like it's you come in and you make things look beautiful. So you'll hear, I mean, all of us in this room have heard that before. And the last thing is, if that outcome is not presented well, what happens is that we don't get picked up by people in power. So if you want, I saw in the Bang presentation that you had a picture with Modi in there. But if you want people at that level to take design seriously, we have to be really clear about our outcome. And what I really love about Circle Innovation's work is you're not just talking about the product design, you're also talking about the value it provides to the industry and the people that you're working with, right? And when you make these things visible, so in that API call, value exchanges and the outcome has to be presented. So that's what I would say, Vishal.
Great, thank you. Would anyone else like to add?
So not to get lost in the semantics of the simple versus complex, but in our office we have a simple definition for what is complex, which is if it takes many words to go explain it, then it's complex. So I think the original question was about the outcome has to be a simplified experience to the user, right, so to speak. And how do you do that how do you go deliver that when the process of getting there itself is complex? So that's actually the whole thing, which is I think simpleness or simple or easy is the attribute you aspire for. It's not the process that gets you there. It's the process that gets you there actually is messy. Even if you look at at a post office or Dunzo or any of these guys, right? I mean, if you've ever been inside of any of these places, it's like a miracle that these things reach you, right? And in the time that they do, and so on. And yeah, my point is that there's it's you can since you're at least in development, you're often doing something once. You don't try and optimize, so to speak, for saying the collaboration has to be only this way. The end goal is to make the user experience as good as it gets, but you do what it takes to make that happen.
All right, I think in the interest of time, we'll still go with the panel discussion, a quick one, because I think that's part of the ritual and also we are documenting it. So I'll ask the panelists to please come here and we'll get started. So we'll try to have a quicker one. We typically allocate at least half an hour, but the talks have been very engaging. So I'll take that as, everything is a learning. And so, yeah, so what I'll here, we have the panelists. I think Mr. Vinay will also join here. So I'll start with the first question. I think some of or most of you have already touched upon it. So you have the first question was about what does design or designing mean to you? I think that's sort of already touched upon. So I'll jump into the second question directly. Is what does it mean to be a designer? So society has an expectation of what a designer is. And as a young student or somebody who's still, still going to practice, sort of has to struggle with this sides of the two, as what you are being taught and what the society sees as a designer. So maybe we'll start with the people online. So we'll start with Anijo, then we'll go to the Nitin and Vinay, and then we'll go this way. So Anijo, if you could start. And if we can keep it a little short, that will be great.
You want me to go first, Vishal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is very interesting. As Professor Salim said, this is a problem that has been tried to answer. We have all tried to answer very many times. And so from our end, from the Institute of Design end, we have a different or an interesting way of answering this question. So if you think about any solution in the world, there is any problem in the world, there's always a solution. Somebody has a solution, right? The problem comes because the needs and aspirations of the users or the stakeholders who are going to use that solution are somewhat different or displaced from that solution. So which means that there's a gap between the needs and aspirations of what the user wants and the solution that is presented. And this is what we call the innovation gap. And that innovation gap essentially is what designers solve for. So to be a designer is the ability to understand the needs and aspirations of the stakeholders and appropriate the problem and frame the problem in a way that the solution actually works. And we saw examples of that in Vinay's presentation with Bang, right? Like, it's very clear that the solution exists, medical technology has it, but the people that are using it in India have a different problem. So what Bang is doing, what I really loved about it, is reducing that gap between the solution and the needs and aspirations of the people. So that's what a designer should be doing.
Great. Okay, Nitin and Vinay. So designer as the society sees and the designer that you are, how do you negotiate this?
Yeah. Vinay, do you want to take it or should I go ahead?
Yeah, I will go ahead. So I think, this is again from my personal experience that when we start out as a designer, right? So we want to do a lot of changes in the sense like, okay, we want to make a lot of products which are cool, like when we start off, right? And design, you don't understand that when you start off begin. Only when you start impacting people, like right through your designs, then you understand like what you are, actually trying to achieve or trying to do. So experience of any designer depends upon what you are making and what you are getting in return, like the feedback, the loop in which you are in, right? So if you are in a loop where, ultimately what you are doing is making somebody happy in a broader terms, that's what, we are all doing. But if you see in the section where we are working it's so a lot of people are not at what do you say? They do not have an equal opportunity to get even basic products or good design or whatever you can call it, right? So when you are making any designs which are more meaningful or which are giving other people to sort of compete with the society, or like you are uplifting a part of the society, so by providing an equal, what do you say, a product which sorts of brings them into an equal level, right? So I think that sort of a design is what, has a lot of impact and which is going to give a lot of satisfaction to a designer. So might have a bit deviated from what is asked, but what I mean to put is like it again depends upon your own experiences, like where you are working and what part of design you are working and what part of loop in which you are put. So that shapes your understanding of who you want to be and what you want to do as a designer.
Thank you. Yeah, Nitin, please.
I'll just very quickly, I'll add to what Vinay said very quickly. I remember a few years back, I came to CPDM and Professor Montomani asked me, when I told him that, I look after sales now, and he asked me how much of designer you are. So now it made me think how much of designer I am. When I look at my sales profile, I see that, all this, whatever I'm doing is actually solving problem there also. So design is very open in that way. I know when we had to sell saffron dryer in Pulwama, we had to reach out to a lot of taxi drivers, to give them some incentives. So these all were problems which we were solving. And when I look back here, maybe it is not product design, but yes, it is a part of design which we are doing. And as Vinay said, the impact which is being created, it gives us a lot of satisfaction. Yeah, with that, I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Design is getting complex year after year. It is increasingly getting it is becoming transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and more elements playing in the field of design. So we have to address that by making it simpler. Now, when I say making it simpler, what I mean is like abstraction. When a cartoonist abstracts a human figure, he gets the essence of that figure with few lines. He captures the essence of that and makes a cartoon. Now, just like that, we have to get the essence of it while simplifying the complex problem. And that is the best way we can make an impactful solution. So this is my take on it. Make the problem, you abstract, simplify, address the issue, and your solution also should be simple. Capturing all the essence, the solution should be simple. A simple, elegant solution is always more powerful.
I'm just going to paraphrase some of the other speakers. I think design is what designers do. It's ultimately what designers do. And you're a designer when you identify yourself as one, really. I mean, at the very core of it, if somebody asks you what are you, what do you do, it's the first thing that comes. Of course, we all contain multitudes. We are different kinds of people, we all have different avatars. But if one of them is being a designer, one of them is coming up with solving problems, with coming up with something looking beautiful, with just wanting to get out there and meet people and understand how they think and provide them with a solution. If that is what you do, and that is what makes you identify yourself as a designer, then that is what designers do. And I think society's definition of design will expand with your definition of design.
Great. I think very interesting answers. And what I'll do is I'll combine the next two questions as well, right? So one is, of course, where I wanted to ask how your understanding of design and designing has evolved over the years as you have practiced or as you have been doing research. So I'll combine that with the next question is, if you can also point to specifics, right? Specific experiences, events, projects, people, or any other encounters that have shaped your understanding of design over the last, so what you started with and what you understand of design today. So if you can combine these two, and again, if we can keep it brief. So again, we'll start in the same order. So we'll start with Anuj.
Vishal, you're always starting with me.
All right.
Maybe somebody else.
Okay, we'll start the other way around this time. So we'll start with Mr. Vinay then.
What's the question? Whether the specific event?
So the question is how, over the years, we evolve and we understand things better. So your understanding of design would evolve. You can point to people, any encounters that has shaped your thoughts on design.
Yeah, I think that there's some people that I owe a lot of things to, and those are people that one of the beauties of the internet is that you can be inspired by people who you never actually met, but one of these eyes we happen to meet. And when we started our practice, we were already a product design company, and we were trying to do things in a certain way. And there was actually only one other firm, or really one other designer, who was called George Soden. And he came from the Memphis movement, I think, in the 80s, and he was already a practitioner of Olivetti and so on. And somehow one thing led to another, and we had corresponded sometime in the 90s. And we did this thing where it's one thing to have like a shape in your mind, but it's another thing altogether to have it come to reality. And the auto industry done it, the other guys had done it, and to the extent that they were all fairly simple shapes, rectangles and so on. But this person had done a very complex form, and and just through we very early days of the internet, it just became this thing where someone who's at least easily 30 years a senior, if not much more, actually shared as much as he could. He's Italian, as as how they went through the process. It taught us a great deal about how the rest of the world worked, and it informed, I would say, a large part of the way in which we approached our work as well. Now, you build on that and you go to entirely different directions. But I would say that was one event that having me asked the question is, and given the fact that the event is more than 20 years old and the fact that it still stays, I think it really was something that changed my worldview.
After my master's in design from IDC, I started my career by joining a company who were the largest manufacturer of perfume bottles. So being the largest manufacturer of perfume bottles, the pressure was enormous to churn out new forms every week. At one point we had about 25 designers, and I was heading that. We were to produce dozens of designs on a regular basis, and that was very interesting. Perfume bottles, cosmetic products, and new form developments. So to come out with new designs, we always had to have strategies, and that resulted in so many hundreds of designs. Often we used to get inspired by nature, bring about forms from nature or some metaphysical aspects, and discuss philosophically and convert them into a product form and it went on. And abstraction is one of the the best techniques we used to follow. Take anything from nature, abstract, get the essence, and give a meaning to it and have a form. So there this question, what makes something beautiful, that lingered on. And later I took that up as my PhD research question. And finally that resulted in the holistic order, which the framework I developed. So for anything, now I feel, I will be able to answer or justify or break that into components and see which aspect is lacking. And by addressing that, one can bridge the gap and make a meaningful solution. So over the years, this is what had happened.
Right.
And now I feel with a holistic order, and I want to now go deeper and make that as a tool for any designer to use to bridge the gap in their problem solving. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Nitin and Vinay, your thoughts.
Yeah. About the how our at least in my mental process, how it evolved, I'll talk about it. I think I'll be very honest on this, and I'll say starting point was in 2011 when we joined CPDM, and we had this EAD course where we learned this 5-step design process. We started from there. We implemented it. We started a company. We started implementing, and we were very religious to follow every single design process. And over maybe with the time, we became more ambitious, and we took some shortcuts we took some decisions where maybe the desirability was not there, viability and feasibility only was there, desirability was not very strong. And I think the evolution has happened now, and now we are again back to from where we started. And at least in my thought process, it is very clear that the five-step design process which we study, that's it. There is nothing beyond it to learn. I mean, if we just stick to it, we have been, at least that this is what my understanding is. There is nothing beyond it. We stick to this design process. We stick to the philosophy of design, the same design philosophy. We just keep implementing it, and things are becoming easier for us. Yeah, I'll pass out to Vinay.
Yes. So in the beginning, when you just pass out as a graduate, right? So at that point of time, 10 years back, I would say, I think. So design was mostly, I mean, in my understanding, it was about engineering and technology. Like, for example, if you want to build a product, right, it was mostly there of the perception that, okay, there has to be a proper engineering to this and a proper technology to this. Yes, it is definitely true, but over the time, I've seen that not only technology, but there are when you talk about having a business viability, right? You can sort of bring innovation there too, right? So I have seen that, personally experienced that, apart from just coming from an engineering background or from a technological background, having being open to innovation on a business side helps us solve this problem. Apart from these, I've observed that over the time, design has been becoming more and more collaborative. Right, you are collaborating with a lot of stakeholders who are involved. Right, you're not just limited to only making a product, producing or design and engineering team. Now you are getting connected to a lot of stakeholders who are involved in the entire value chain. And other thing that I have seen, especially in this sector, is we use this term called jugaad very widely, right? So what it does is okay, what is it that we can sort of learn from this word jugaad is? Jugaad means you are doing something which is there existing. You're trying to solve that problem without having much resources or a lot of other things. You don't have access to all these things. And let us say you adopt this in your process of jugaad to sort of force yourself to make more simpler designs. So jugaad is in what I am referring to here is as jugaad is something which you are doing with what you have with very minimal expense, right? So in a space of in the space we are working, especially in the agricultural sector, so you want to make products which are more affordable, right? Which have more value in terms of returns. So if you put jugaad as a process, right? If you force yourself to follow this jugaad method, it also helps you in sort of within this process to sort of come out with a product which is more simpler if you are constraining yourself to this. So this is one observation that I found over the years.
Right. Thank you. Anijo, now we're back to you.
Great, thanks. And I really appreciate what everybody said. And, this growth is a really integral part of being a designer. So for those of you who didn't catch what Vishal said at the beginning, I have an architecture degree where I was trained, and like most of you probably, to become the superstar architect, right? So the Rem Koolhaas or the Louis Kahn of the future. And then I have a design degree from Harvard where I went and started to work with Rem Koolhaas. And then finally, I have a PhD in computing. So in all of these processes, I started to realize that I'm never going to become a superstar designer. It's just a pipe dream that has been taught to me from the very beginning. But if I learn the ways that I can collaborate with other people, I can actually create impact in the world. And it doesn't matter if I'm a superstar designer. I think that was the big lesson for me. So in terms of people, places, my big the one that was most influential for me is when we started to talk to business leaders. So Roger Martin, the dean of the Rotman Business School in University of Toronto, he actually talks about the Institute of Design as a driving factor in how business uses design. And this led to Jim Hackett, the former CEO of Ford, who, when he took over at Ford, he said, why don't we have designers making management decisions? Right? And then Jamshed Godrej, who is the chairperson of the Godrej and Boyce company, invited us to India to work with them we worked with them for almost 8 years to build an innovation platform. And there's a video in which Jamshed Godrej actually says, design is the way that companies can actually change their business strategies. And these are the kind of things that if we can get more and more people who actually wield a lot of power and capital, and bring them into the side of where they understand what value design brings, this makes a big difference. And now my mission is to bring this to government leaders. So in Dubai, I was talking to ministerial level cabinet members. I'm talking to people in the New Zealand cabinet, people in Papua New Guinea and other countries like that. So if government leaders can start to see the value, that's when we actually make major impact. So a product can maybe affect 100,000 people, but system-based design can affect 1.2 billion people, right? And that's the value that we bring from my perspective.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. I had one more question, but I'll skip that. I think this was a wonderful session. We still have to meet our alumni from the fourth year. So without any delay, I think I'll thank all the panelists. And again, I'll call you back once again when we give you certificates for the the design ambassadors, but I think we'll wait towards the end for that. Yeah, so we'll quickly go and meet our alumni who are online. So if all of you can come, on screen, please, and then introduce yourselves. Thanks for waiting all this while. I hope this was an interesting session for you as well. And at the same time, we're eager to see where you all are and hear from you. So just to inform the audience as well, we in initial days, CPDM batches were quite small, 7 to 8 people. And out of that, I think we have 4 to 5 people here, which is good. So please come on the camera and introduce yourself and tell us how your journey has been so far. Yeah, so this is the fourth batch, which is 2000-2002, if I'm correct. So they started 2000 and graduated. So we have Jayant here. We have Shilpa. Shilpa, if you could come on screen as well, or at least put your camera on. We have Dr. Guru Prasad. We have Chandan Chawla. So if all of you can please come on the camera, that will be great. So we'll start with this first. So if you could go ahead.
I'm sorry, but this is just a perfectly difficult time because I'm just getting off the train right now. But I'm so glad it was a great discussion that I've been seeing here, and very proud of all the achievements that CPDM has. Amarish sir actually showed us everything, and also the alumni. I'm so proud of the Sickle Foundations. I've seen your updates on the LinkedIn, and I'd like to reiterate, I love what you guys are doing, and so much of impact that CPDM is making in the design world. Really proud of that. And just to, so Vishal, right now, are you asking about what we're doing? You want me to talk about that as well?
Yes, we would like to know where you are, what you have been doing over the years.
Okay. So yeah, almost 20 years of experience now. It's always weird to talk about it. 20 years already there. And I've actually navigated this labyrinth of design from the physical world to the virtual now. I'm with IBM right now, working as an experienced design leader, working in Munich. Um, and I've worked right after my CPDM years. I worked as a furniture designer. I worked into the professional luminaire designs. Um, worked with various organizational kind of structures, from corporates to design agencies. I worked with Elephant Design. Then I've had my stint as a freelance designer as well, and now in IBM for last 7.5 years, and working with various technologies. So right now, as you know, um, in experience design, I'm working with exponential technologies like AI, IoT, and currently as an innovation management consultant to some of our clients. I'm also looking into metaverse as the next thing to go into. So that's something, a short update from my side, what I am doing at this point of time. And yeah, I'm also an active mentor to students um, across the globe. So when Amarish sir spoke about the Politecnico di Milano Institute that he had been to, just last year I got to mentor some of the students from Politecnico di Milano. They also won an award on what challenge I was supporting them. So I'm really glad about that. And in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing. I also wanted to touch upon this. So Vinay from Bang, if I'm not wrong, you've been a jury to us when we were studying as well. And so glad to see you again. Um, Lovely. It's getting louder here, so I'm going to shut off talking now. I'll just observe what my other teammates have been doing. Thank you very much for giving me an ear.
Thank you. Yeah. So now it's all yours, Jayant. You're muted, Jayant.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah. All good now.
Yeah. I think it's really great to reconnect back to CPDM. Thanks for this opportunity. I think the session has been really great, and I have been working on innovations as well as the design since my early days. So after CPDM, I think I have worked on the medical devices. I had been at GE Healthcare working on primarily on the X-ray devices. Right now, most of the designs are being manufactured. From early concept till the manufacturing, I had been involved over there, and those devices are being exported and touching patients' life. I also had been working with various institutions, including the hospitals, including the educational institutions. And right now I'm running a startup. Basically, it works on medical devices. We primarily work on interventional devices which have direct impact on saving lives. We, in fact, are trying to break the barriers. Being a designer, we are trying to create products with multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary team. We work with various institutions, including the hospitals globally. We work with the armed forces, and we are basically trying to deploy our devices. And as rightly pointed by the speakers, I think we are not only trying to focus only on the products, but we are also trying to understand what are the unmet clinical needs. And at the same time, we are also working on deploying the technologies in the large scale. So wherein our efforts in terms of designing how we basically deploy these devices, how the adoption of the technologies happen, how the training of this happens. So we focus on this, all these aspects, and we work with a few of the greatest clinicians globally. We work with our team is really an interdisciplinary team with a very high amount of experience in their domains. And as I said, essentially we are trying to break the barrier around the design and trying to get the products which we typically say product market fit. But I think we are trying to go further, and we are trying to say that can we have the interventions wherein we can save the lives. So that's short from me.
Great, thank you, Jen. Dr. Krupshad.
Thank you, Professor Vishal Singh, Professor Chakravarti, Professor Salim on DAS, Mr. Rao on DAS, and all my classmates, Shilpa, Jayant, Nitin, Vinay, Chandan Chavan, and many others. I'm so glad to meet you all virtually. And since I left CPDM, I've been going places. First thing was from CPDM, I went to NIFT to teach design, CDT to teach design, and then to go to corporate sector where I came from Titan, but I went to electrical appliances company, Crompton Reeves, in Mumbai, and almost stayed back in Mumbai. And it was a good, working in a design center, part of R&D, global R&D, and work on various types of products. And had a strong connect with the alma mater, getting a lot of interns working with me, and interns like we had, I think Nayak there, and I had Suman, Shaurya, and Shamit as interns, and also had Ganesh Kandale and Mona Sharma as my colleagues. Much later, I think a lot of CPDM people joined the department, even after I left. And later on, I went to Jaipur to teach design. And from there, I came to Bangalore, again to join back a Mumbai company to head their business in 3D printing, and became director and mentor. I think right now, I think it was a long, stay in corporate. Being at the senior level, I was looking at less of design and more of numbers. Probably, I was also indulging in corporate training, etc., with FECI and the CII and all. Post my PhD, I wanted to take design seriously and work on it. Best way to learn design is by teaching it. So right now I am an eternal student. It's great listening to the great masters and our colleagues who are doing a wonderful job in the industry. And I've been a mentor to many startups. I had a session today also with the Technology Business Incubator for social innovation, talking to them on problem canvas just before joining this session. Really, I feel very proud that CPDM is completing its 25 years, and times really fly. I very much would love to come back to CPDM to learn something, some master classes from Chakravarti sir, because we need a recharge. I very much feel like a student now. And I can recollect Rao was there were two Raos, Achyut Rao and Sunil Rao, who were our jury, along with Kishore Babu, for part of our evaluation. I cannot forget that. And I think really glad to be part of this evening. Thank you, Vishal, for making it. Look forward to hear more and join the 25 years celebration soon in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Chandan, if you can come on the camera, that will be great, but at least introduce yourself. Chandan, are you there? It's muted as well. So you're muted.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Great to see you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Vishal. Thank you. And first of all, I would like to congratulate CPDM on this 25 years of celebration. I think it has been a wonderful evening with lots of very valuable thoughts being exchanged by panelists who talked about different topics today. So wonderful. It has been a wonderful experience. Speaking about me, I come from the batch of 2002 along with my friends. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my colleagues as well. And also, of course, convey my regards to all the faculty and the students, their best wishes. So I've been working with TVS Motor Company for a long time now, close to 20 years. I started my journey there through a campus program and worked on various roles, including testing, designing products, designing systems, working on areas of vehicle ride comfort handling. And the recent half a decade or so, I've been now leading the culture of innovation at the company and also looking after the intellectual property of the organization. So I'm that way to a large extent connected with lots of new innovations coming through, not just every day, probably every hour. So that's the brief gist of what I have been doing in the last 5 years or so.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Seeing you, it was great seeing you all. I think it's and of course we hope that we'll see you all in person when we have the grand event, and collectively having all the alumni here. So I think with that, I'll thank everyone online as well. Before we close the session, we'll have this closing session. So I'll invite Professor Chakravarti again to come here and also give the certificates to the design ambassadors. Yeah.
Okay, I think now I am between you and high tea, so I'll be very brief. First of all, once again, I would like to thank all the people who have helped in organizing this event, particularly Professor Vishal and his team, but also at the background, the office, Ranjita and various others. So thank you all very much. And now without further ado, I'd just like to call up on stage our distinguished colleagues from VIT Velour and from Bank Design. We have a small thing to share with you, thanking you. Okay, so thank you. Of course, to Selim Ahmed. And I think we should just invite you all for our high tea. Please join us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are closing the session here on Teams now. So thanks again for everyone to have joined. Apologies that we are delayed by half an hour, but I guess that was the nature of the event, and we just went with the flow. All right. So we hope to see you all.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.